Hello and welcome back to the channel. Continuing our journey, today we will visit one of the most beautiful castles in the Loire Valley. But first, we will walk through the streets of the small but beautiful village of Chedigny.
And if you like our video, do not forget to like it, subscribe and activate notifications so that you know when we upload a new video.
We continue our tour of the Loire Valley, and after visiting the Château de Chaumont, we head to what is possibly one of the most beautiful castles in the valley, which we plan to visit in the afternoon. So we take advantage of the morning to visit the small village of Chedigny, which is very close to the castle. We park in the free public parking lot next to the cemetery and begin our visit to this small village, whose population does not reach 600 inhabitants, but is known throughout the Loire Valley because its inhabitants have transformed the village into a garden, perfuming it with thousands of flowers, mostly roses, of which there are more than 1,000 plants of 300 different varieties. At the end of May, the Rose Festival is celebrated, with the participation of more than 70 exhibitors, where rose growers, artisans linked to gardening, musicians, and street painters animate the streets of this small village. Here we find the Jardin du Curé, the presbytery garden, which recreates a 19th century kitchen garden with medicinal plants and fruit trees, in addition to exotic floral species that the Jesuits brought from the colonies, and the old presbytery vineyard. Next to the garden, we find the Church of Saint-Pierre-ès-Liens, nestled in the center of the village and surrounded by lush rose bushes, which contrast with the sober facade of the church. This simple church without side aisles was built in the Romanesque style in the 12th century, and the current location of the choir was the seigneurial chapel of the Château de Chedigny, which disappeared at the end of the 18th century. It underwent various renovations throughout its history until the 19th century, which gave it its current appearance. Enjoying the streets of this small village turned into a garden, we arrive at the old washhouse, built with a magnificent wooden framework over the course of a small stream, where we put an end to the visit of this small village, in which it is undoubtedly worth getting lost in its streets and alleys, delighting in the perfume of its thousands of roses. We leave the garden village of Chedigny, which we certainly recommend visiting, and head to the Château de Chenonceau. Regarding parking, you will have no problem, as there is a large free parking lot even for motorhomes, from which we begin our walk towards the castle. The history of this castle begins in the 13th century, when a castle was built here to control the river traffic of the Cher River, being owned by the Marx family, who, when the 100 Years' War broke out, handed the castle over to the English, being reconquered and destroyed by the French in 1411, and subsequently rebuilt, only a tower remaining from that period, later passing to different owners who have remodeled and expanded it. In 1535, it passed into the hands of the crown, and the French king Henry II offered it to his favorite, Diane de Poitiers, who gives her name to one of the gardens, until the death of the king, when his wife Catherine de Medici forced her to abandon the castle, offering her in exchange the Château de Chaumont. After the death of Catherine de Medici, Louise de Lorraine, widow of Henry III, lived in the castle, who was considered the White Queen of the castle, as she lived in austerity mourning her husband until her death. The castle remained royal property until the mid-18th century, passing to private owners, whose wives continued to reform, expand, and beautify the castle, until it became part of the Menier family, who remain the current owners. Due to the role that women had in its history, this castle is known as the Ladies' Castle, which we access after admiring its beautiful facade, and after crossing a bridge, we enter the luxury of the French Renaissance, where we first find the guard room. This was the room of the men-at-arms, in charge of royal protection, with a beautiful fireplace and 16th century Flemish tapestries. From the guard room, one enters the chapel through a door crowned by a statue of the Virgin, whose beautiful stained glass windows were among the few parts affected during the Second World War. From the chapel, following the route, we arrive at the bedroom of Diane de Poitiers, favorite of King Henry II, owner of the Château de Chenonceau, until the exchange with Catherine de Medici of the castle for the Château de Chaumont. Above the sumptuous fireplace, we find a portrait of Catherine de Medici and two immense 16th century Flemish tapestries that completely cover the walls. We then moved to the green cabinet, so called because it was her favorite color and which served as the monarch's office from where she governed France after the death of her husband, Henry II. From the bedroom of Diane de Poitiers, through a small passageway, we reached the gallery, which Catherine de Medici had built in 1576 over Diane de Poitiers' bridge. It's 60 meters in length, 6 meters in width, and 18 windows, as well as its checkered floor, made it a magnificent ballroom with a beautiful Renaissance fireplace at each end. This gallery also has its recent history, as when the castle was owned by the Menier chocolate-making family, in both the gallery and in other rooms of the castle, during the First World War, a military hospital was installed, and during the Second World War, it allowed the resistance to pass many people to the Free Zone, since the Cher River was the demarcation line between the Free Zone and the occupied zone. From the gallery, going down some stairs, we arrive at the kitchen, located at the base of the first two piers set in the bed of the Cher River. In the office, we find a 16th century fireplace, which is the largest in the castle, as well as a baker's oven, and from there we access other dependencies, such as the dining room reserved for the castle staff, the butcher shop where the hooks for hanging game can still be seen, the pantry, or the bridge that leads to the kitchen proper. In the space between one pillar and another of the bridge, the supply boats were moored, and these kitchens of Renaissance origin were modernized during the First World War when the castle became a hospital. We leave the kitchens and arrive at the Francis I Hall, which has one of the most beautiful Renaissance fireplaces, and next to it we find the Louis XIV Hall, named in memory of the monarch's visit on July 14, 1650, and where we find the portrait of the king with a sumptuous frame. From the ground floor, we go up to the first floor and arrive at the vestibule of Catherine Brissonnet, wife of Thomas Brissonnet, the first owner of the castle, at one end of which we have a balcony with a beautiful panoramic view of the castle entrance, dominated by the terrace and the Marx Tower and the gardens of Diane de Poitiers and Catherine de Medici. We continue the visit in the bedroom of the Five Queens, named in memory of the 2 daughters and 3 daughters-in-law of Catherine de Medici, and where we find the large bed, the Renaissance fireplace, and 16th century Flemish tapestries. Our next stop is in the bedroom of Catherine de Medici, with a beautiful golden wooden coffered ceiling, under which we find an incredible bed, to the right of which we find a painting by Correggio representing the education of love, rich carved furniture, and a unique set of 16th century Flemish tapestries. We continue the visit in the bedroom of Gabrielle d'Estrées, who was the favorite and great love of King Henry IV. Both the beamed ceiling, the floor, the fireplace, and the furniture are Renaissance, and on the walls we find 16th century Flemish tapestries and 17th century Brussels tapestries. We arrive at a large gallery called the Medici Gallery, located above the ground floor gallery, and where you will discover a rich collection of paintings, tapestries, furniture, and art objects, or curious exhibitions like earthenware plates. However, the main purpose of the gallery is to inform visitors about the history of the castle, its construction stages, and the lives of the women who beautified it. We leave the Medici Gallery and its beautiful view over the river and arrive at the bedroom of César de Vendôme, son of King Henry IV and Gabrielle d'Estrées, who owned the castle in 1624, and whose second son is none other than the famous Man in the Iron Mask. Here we find a beautiful wooden beamed ceiling, a golden Renaissance fireplace, and a window framed by 2 19th century wooden caryatids. We go up to the second floor and arrive at the Bourbon Vendôme vestibule with a beautiful 16th century tapestry and Renaissance floor and furniture, although the rest of this vestibule is marked by the restorations carried out in the 19th century. This gallery serves only one room, the bedroom of Louise de Lorraine, who retired to Chenonceau after the assassination of her husband, Henry III, always dressed in white according to the etiquette of royal mourning, and that is why she will be called the White Queen. Under the beautiful ceiling with symbols that refer to mourning, we find an austere and dark-colored decoration reminiscent of mourning and prayer. We finish our visit to the interior of the castle, where you will see that each room is beautifully adorned with flowers grown in the castle itself. At the entrance of the castle, we find 2 gardens, the Garden of Catherine de Medici, which is the living image of refinement and offers a magnificent view of the west facade of the castle, and the Garden of Diane de Poitiers, larger than that of Catherine de Medici, where we will first pass by a small building called the Chancellery, which was the house of Catherine de Medici's steward. In front of the Chancellery, we find a large garden of 12,000 square meters built on a platform to protect it from river floods. 2 perpendicular avenues and other diagonal ones delimit 8 large grass triangles, beautifully decorated with shrubs, and in the center of which we find a fountain, an ideal place where we end our visit to the castle. Although if you wish, before reaching the castle, on the right you can visit other places, among which we find 2 other small gardens, a reconstruction of the military hospital installed during the First World War, the so-called Queen's Pharmacy, which displays pharmaceutical material and remedies from the time of Catherine de Medici, the domed cellar, where you can taste and buy wines from the Chenonceau estate, a 16th century farmhouse presided over by a pond, the carriage gallery, the flower orchard, where the flowers that adorn the castle's salons are grown, or a curious labyrinth formed by 2,000 yew trees cut in a circular shape, the whole ensemble being the ideal complement to what is undoubtedly one of the most beautiful castles in the Loire Valley.